And now I have the honor to invite to the stage Caroline Glick. The name, of course, you all know, you're all familiar with the name. And the main question that we're going to start with is, why politics? Ladies and gentlemen, Caroline Glick. Good evening, Caroline.
Good evening.
So listen.
So what's the question?
Whenever you had something to say, everyone heard. Whenever you wanted to influence, everyone was influenced. Why politics?
Well, because it's great to be listened to, and I feel blessed that I've had this amazing platform all these years as a writer, and I'm not going to stop writing. I will continue to write, because that's just who I am. But I think, being on the outside looking in, and, it always makes you wonder, what more can I do? Can I take action that's going to move from thought to implementation? And, there are a lot of things that I think are of critical importance for Israel to be dealing with today. And I think that in the Knesset, especially in the Yamina Chadash party, in the New Right party, I think that I'm going to be in a position to actually do more and take what I've been writing about and translate into law and into action.
So let's talk about maybe one of the first challenges. We know that officially the Trump administration is waiting for the elections. The peace plan will be presented after the elections. And even Jared Kushner said at the Warsaw Conference that there will be compromises on both sides. What are we supposed to expect? What do you expect to see? Something different than the Trump supporting Yitzhar that we were talking about at the beginning?
I'm not really sure what is in the Trump plan. I have to say that the Trump administration has built up credibility with the Israeli people because they've done some things that have been important that none of their predecessors have done. They defunded the Palestinian Authority. They defunded UNRWA. They left the UN Human Rights Council. And, of course, they moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. And these are all significant actions that they've taken that no previous administration took.
However,
there are certain things that Israel cannot concede. We cannot concede, and indeed we have to perpetuate in perpetuity our control over Area C of Judea and Samaria as a first and important thing that we have to do, which means that we can't make any territorial compromises whatsoever in Area C. And obviously Jerusalem is not on the table. So it really depends what they're offering. But we have national interests, we have strategic interests, and we're not going to concede them. So I don't know what's in the plan, but I do know that the responsibility of the next government is to ensure that Israel continues to, that Israel advances our claims in Judea and Samaria, implements our law in Judea and Samaria in Area C, and that we explain to the Trump administration that these are our positions and we're not going to move them.
So if Kushner and Greenblatt are watching our broadcast today and they say, you know what? Okay, what is your alternative? What is your idea? How do you proceed to anything? Or you might be saying, no, we're in a good situation, take care of security, and continue working.
Now, look, we have rights. We have sovereign rights to Judea and Samaria. Our sovereign claim under international law to Judea and Samaria are stronger than anybody else's. They emanate directly from the mandate of the League of Nations that, was never annulled or superseded. So there is no other nation with sovereign rights to Judea and Samaria, only the Jewish people, only the state of Israel, and we have to assert those rights, and we have to ensure that they're respected. We haven't done that for a long time, and it's well nigh time that we start. So I think that, first of all, our solution is to ensure the civil rights and the national rights and the strategic interests of the state of Israel, and that's what we have to do. I think that, yes, we have to implement Israeli law as opposed to military law in Area C of Judea and Samaria. And we can continue. The Palestinians have been living in an autonomous self-rule not under Israeli control for the past 23 years, since they established the Palestinian Authority and the major Palestinian population centers in Judea and Samaria. They're not under Israeli governance. And so there's no reason for us to deny them continued self-governance. If they have their government, they were supposed to re-elect it, but that's not our problem. They have their passports, they have their identity cards, they have, their self-rule, and why should we take it away from them?
Let's relate to the diplomatic crisis with the Polish government. Mm-hmm. Some say, finally Israel's standing up for Jewish history, finally we're saying our truth. But some are saying this is a diplomatic catastrophe, what's going on here, and that's more important to be okay with the Poles.
Well, I think that it's very important to put the Polish government and their interesting relationship with history in the context of the overall European inability to grasp or look straight in the eye of their history, not only in the Holocaust, but for 2,003 years and more of persecution of Jews by Europeans. And we have a situation where Europe is basically divided between East Central and Western Europe. And on the Western side, animosity, hostility towards Israel is growing. Inability to reconcile with millennium of ill treatment of Jews on the part of those states, it continues to be maintained. And on the eastern side, you have a lot of governments who are very interested and committed to having good relations with Israel. And you see an improvement.
Including Poland.
Yes, and you see an incremental improvement in their rejection of anti-Semitism. You don't see it in France. You don't see it in Belgium. You don't see it in Germany. You don't see it in a lot of these other, in Holland.
So maybe we should be a bit more careful.
So what I'm saying is that what we have to look at is, we always pretend that the problems are only in Eastern Europe, but they're all over Europe. And we have to ask, do we want to just be alone? Do we not want to have any relationships with any Europeans? Because we could point a finger at every single one of them and talk about all the terrible things that they did to the Jews. One of the reasons we had to come home is because, they massacred us, and they annihilated us. So why would we want to be with them? But we have common interests with them. You see efforts being made by the Hungarians and by others to reconcile with their past and to bring Israel into the writing of that history and understanding of that history. We have a unique issue with the Poles, but we have to understand that it's not that unique. We have a very similar issue with a lot of other countries in Western Europe. So the question just becomes, do we want to have diplomatic relations with Europe or not?
Caroline Glick, there's so many more topics we could talk about. Very interesting.
Thank you.
We're going to hear you on the Knesset podium.
Like I said, the fact that I'm going into politics means you're going to hear more from me, not
Caroline
less.
Glick.
Okay.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
Caroline
you.
Glick, Yamina Chadash.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.